First of all, 10 pounds or more potatoes in a pot with hot water. Then put the pot on a big burner on the stove, and it's going to take probably 20 minutes for that water to boil. Let's come back and check at 7:59. Well, as you can see, it's still not boiling, but there's other work to do. Put some butter in a pan. I put about 3 tablespoons. Then we're going to come over here and take these onions and shred them. You can do it however you like. I'm going to do it this way. And then I'll take them over here to the waiting butter. And we'll fry all that up, making sure to add no salt because we're trying to get the sweetness out of these guys. So I get it going while we're doing it. My heat right now is set to 7. That will at least get things going. Now, onto the meat. Here's about a pound of hamburger. Unfortunately, it's frozen, so we'll unwrap it and take it over to the microwave. Defrost that puppy. Oh, look. Onions are beginning to brown. Make sure every piece of onion is coated by butter. That makes them fry. Don't let any goodness get away. And we'll see that at 8:07, our potatoes still aren't boiling. Oh well. I'm making a big batch, so I have 2 packages of salt pork here, which need to have both the artificial and the natural rind removed. You'll notice there, skin. So, taking a sharp knife, just cut the skin off of each of those. If you have a cat or a dog, that's the next stop for that. Look what's finally boiling. 15 minutes longer than I thought. Now we're going to start a timer for 30 minutes. Alexa, please start a timer for 30 minutes. Always attend to your onions. Notice I have the heat set way down to low. Just want those guys to get sweet and brown. So now you can see we've removed all of the rinds from the meat, and we have the new attachment that I have, but you need to cube this meat for it to fry up. I'm going to put it through the grinder. There it goes. So now that your meat is cubed, I have moved the onions to the back burner, still on very low heat, and I got a big skillet going out here, and we're going to put the cubed salt pork in. Now you just notice I can use the same spatula with this and the other meat that I'll be frying. It's not that they're separated, they're all going into the same place. but they all have wildly different cooking temperatures. The onions, low and slow for a long time. We're going to zap these pork to render all the fat out of it and make some little crispies. And there's going to be a shipload of fat that we'll have to drain out. Whereas the hamburger that's still defrosting is rather lean and has very little fat that will have to be drained. You want to closely monitor this, agitate it. The ones on the bottom will fry up quickly. Want it brown but not burned. I forgot to tell you earlier, when the potatoes come to a boil, you can turn the heat down. It'll keep the boil going. But notice now these nicely browning salt pork bits. And then you can stir it so they don't burn. They're getting there. So this is about as brown as you want to get them. I've got a few more that need some extra time, but I'm just going to keep on stirring it here so nobody gets burned. And I'll turn the heat off. Okay, now you have to extract all the fat. Good luck with that. See how because of the heat of the pan that my guys on the top are actually still cooking, so that's why it's okay to remove it a little bit before it's done. It does take a few minutes to remove all this oil. Okay, now that that's done, we can remove that to the bowl. So, you want to have a big bowl into which your pre-fried items are going to go. We're going to go next with the hamburger. Hamburger is pretty much thawed from the microwave. We'll just begin to fry it. Never leave. Oh, looks like I lost crap on my onions. I'm going to remove them from the heat and also pour them in the bowl. This is just browning hamburger. Hopefully you've done this 100 times. So these are getting close to done. You'll notice there's hardly any fat because Mom buys, Nana, Lori buys very lean hamburgers. You don't need the fat for the taste here because we got all the fat from the salt pork. So the leaner you can get your meat, the better. You'll notice, however, I'm taking great care to break up all the chunks because there's not that much meat in a Kroppkakor. And you want a good blend of the hamburger and the onions and the salt pork. So, no big pieces. We'll let that finish up. And while you're cooking, there's always time to do dishes so you never get behind. That's looking pretty brown, I hope. I don't know. I'm colorblind. I can't see. So, I'm going to get that all up there, and we're going to see how much fat we can get out of there. Boy, it keeps coming. The Widow's Cruise. I don't think this is the kind of oil that she was using to make bread. Alright, that's good enough. Into the bowl with it. There's the bowl. Final installment of meat. Oh, what the heck. one thing I've learned. If you wash a pot right away, or a cast iron skillet, number one, it's much easier to remove anything that's crusted on there. You'll notice I am using soap because I don't season my cast iron. I ablate the surface with a sander so that it's pretty smooth. Anyway, give that a good rinse. And then you can put it away. I hang mine up. You can put it away wet because the heat that's on it will make it evaporate. You'll notice up to this point I really haven't done any measuring. I do have the cookbook out now because we start to get somewhere. If you'll notice here it says 1 teaspoon allspice. I'm doing a double batch, so I'll do 2 teaspoons allspice. And that's all that needs. So we'll grab a mixing spoon and give this a good stir. Yeah, now that is beautiful. Make sure we get a bite here with everything in it. So good. Well, over an hour later, my potatoes are done. How do I know? Well, if you poke a fork in them, the skin resists, but nothing inside does. So, let's go dump them out. You'll notice I have the sink rigged. It's the drainer pan. Water's going to flow through, but I also have a cutting board there. And I want my potatoes to have a soft landing. Because if they get a hard landing coming out, the skins will break. And the rest of the mess. There you go. You see just that little scraping from that one from the pan got him going. All right, so now we're ready to peel the potatoes. Sharpen your best paring knife and get a light stream of cold water going. Yes, you can pick these potatoes up, give them a little bit of a dousing in cold water. You'll need to refresh that every once in a while. And the ends of the potatoes are usually a little hard. You have to do some cutting. But around the middle, this one's not being cooperative, but sometimes you get like 50% of the skin in one pull. You'll notice that I'm doing this over the disposal. It's okay if a few of these go into the disposal because they're cooked. They're not hard. It's the hard ones you can't put down. But there's a nice peeled potato, and yes, it's fresh out of the oven, but you're able to hold it because it's got a little bit of cold water on it. And you're not cutting away potato, you're just pulling away skins, except on the ends where you do have to cut. See, this one is doing much better. Big swaths of skin coming off. And a little bit of cut at the end, and there you go. I forgot to mention that I'm laying the potatoes out on the counter. The secret to taste with both Kroppkakor and Lefse is getting the potatoes as dry as possible. The flavor is from the potato. We use the flour as a binder, but the flour doesn't really taste that good because we're not baking it. So if you can keep as much water out of your potatoes as possible in the horrible wounds, then you won't have to add as much flour on the other end, and your stuff will taste better. Yeah, believe it or not, you can get through all those potatoes. It does take a while, but you'll find some potatoes that you love, like this one, that just peel away beautifully in a couple of strokes. And there's others, like the one I did before this, where I actually had to peel massive amounts of the potato away because it just was not coming off. But there they are. Now, gather up as much of this as you can and throw it in the trash. The rest. And dispose of. Yes, wash as you go. The next job is to rice the potatoes. One of the reasons I like to peel the potatoes while they're hot is because they're much easier to rice. Oops. Yep. I use my upper body as leverage. Those guys just go right through there. I don't know if I have a good potato ricer or that I have cooked these guys the right amount, but ricing is not that hard. Well, the recipe calls for 1 egg and about 5 cups of flour. This is a double batch, so I'll be using 2 eggs and more flour. I don't know what the eggs do for it. There's hardly enough there by volume to make any difference. And we're going to put about 4 cups of flour in there to begin with. Now comes the fun part. Potatoes are still warm, but since they are warm, it makes them a little bit easier to work with, I think. When they get cold, they begin to, solidify. So it's easier to work in this flour. And it's at this point in the game that I always remember, oh yeah, my recipe doesn't include salt. And I would always bring up the phone and call my mother, starting with my first time doing it I was on my mission in Switzerland when we weren't supposed to call home at any time. And I said, how much salt goes into Kroppkakor? I made that a tradition, but my mom just passed this year, so can't make the call, got to do it myself. There's no way that you can put enough salt in these potatoes to not have you salt at the table when you're eating it. It's just not possible. But I added a good 2 tablespoons there just to bring things around. And I've got all that flour mixed in there. Almost. You don't want to put all your flour in at once because then it's just too difficult to get it all mixed in. So now I'll go for another 3 to 4 cups. I'll try 3 heaping ones. Turning it over to get the stuff at the bottom. Turning the bowl around. Get all the stuff that's been gathering to my side. And I think I'm going to call that done as far as adding flour, because that feels like a good dough. Notice, except for the early stuff, this isn't really sticking to my hands anymore. And that's all you want, is the ability to make the Kroppkakor without the dough sticking to your hand. That's the whole purpose. It'd be nice if you could just make potato cakes with no flour. They'd be really tasty, but they would not stand up to any punishment in cooking. And there you have it. I'm going to wash my hands really quickly and then show you how not sticky it is. So with hands washed and dried, A little bit of stickiness, but not too much. All right. Now for the next step, making the Kroppkakor. So, flour your hands a little. Get a wadded dough about the size of a, what is that, squash ball? And then pat it out, making a little bit more indentation in the middle. Then take a little scoop of meat. You want to keep it centered because you've got to fold all this over without grease coming near the edges. Otherwise it won't seal it. Once you got it all sealed, I make mine into a hockey puck. Try to make the edges kind of flat. Nice little hockey puck there, and place it on a floured pan. So get yourself another squash ball. Pat it out. Meat in the center. Pinch to make sure no meat or fat. Smooth the top down. Nice little hockey ball. We'll make a bunch of those. Your next job then is to cook the Kroppkakor. Now most people do this on the stove. I live in Arizona where the sun is out and it's 60, 70 degrees out here. And if you cook it inside, this takes a long time. Your windows steam up. So I've elected to do it outside. Got a couple of pans here with water at a very low boil. I like these square pans because you can fit them in a little bit more symmetrically. And once you've got all these in, start your timer for 20 minutes. 20 minutes are up. Oh goodness, these look great. I'm putting them on a tray with wax paper. I'm going to set the tray down so I don't have to try to balance it. So these will now go into the refrigerator, where traditionally on Christmas Eve these are boiled again. Or maybe they were just boiled the first time. I don't know. But I don't really like them just this way. They're wet and mashy and whatever. So what we do is we put these in the refrigerator overnight and then bring them out tomorrow morning, which I will show you, and fry them in butter. And they are orbs of magnificence. So we'll put the next batch on and see you when we start frying these tomorrow morning. Well, as you can see, this is not Christmas morning. This is Boxing Day morning. I forgot to record the video yesterday. But you'll see that I have a burner set to about 5 on my stove, which is, a little bit lower than halfway. And I'm going to take a generous amount of butter and put that in there. And while that's finished melting, I'm going to pull out 4 of my orbs of deliciousness from previous video. There we go. And put these guys on here. Now, watch the clock through this video. This takes a while. Alright, we're smelling some brown. Time to do some turning. Well, some of it's brown. There we go, that one's nice. That one's about right too. Now, apparently those sides have been getting more heat than the others. It's alright, we can flip them back over. But anyway, you saw how much time passed. Alright, time to check in again. This guy's doing. That's the level of brownies you want. Ooh, that's a little too much. I like them that way. But those two are done. As with any well-maintained household, you take the best two and you put them on a plate. You take them with the proper utensils and the necessary anointing, and you serve them up to the queen of the house. Bon appetit.